Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Thor Love and Thunder. And I was super excited for the second outing of Thor from Taika Waititi after I absolutely love Thor Ragnarok. And reviews have been mixed. Went into the film, still very excited, and came out thinking this was the silliest, campiest, most fun Marvel movie I think they've put out up to this point. I think Taika Waititi really realizes that Thor is silly and weird and odd and just goes with it. And I'm going to start with the negatives just to get those out of the way. This is a 2-hour film, and my God, the pacing is never let you breathe. And honestly, this is one of those kinds of films where I think it could have benefited from being a little bit longer just to let some of these moments breathe a little, because sometimes it's like, let's get on to the next thing. Like, there's a return of a significant character from the first Thor movie, and it's just like, well, quick, on to the next scene. And it's just like, calm down. I just feel like, especially in the first act of the film, this is like going like nuts. And transportation-wise, getting from one place to another, I feel like this is like Game of Thrones' last 2 seasons of like, there just seems to be MacGuffins popping up that work as like, hey, how many different items can we have that make us transport through space in like a blink of an eye? And like, bam, there you go. And it makes it a little uneven in terms of some of the pacing. Tonally, I think that it finds its perfect tone in the third act, where it really realizes like you need to let some of these emotional moments breathe, and you don't need to throw in jokes every 5 seconds. It doesn't really realize that the first 2/3 of this movie, because there's definitely moments where it's just like, let's throw in some jokes there because we can't make them feel too much. We can't make them be terrified too much. And it's just like, but you can. Just let the movie be. And I think Taika Waititi's really leaning into, like, he's funny and has a lot of jokes to throw at you, which, I'm going to say, this is hilarious. I laughed a lot. I had a ton of fun with this. I thought this was extremely amusing, but some of the jokes, I feel like it's forcing and they're awkward because it's just too many too fast at times in the film, and that kind of takes away from some of the experience. And also, there's some stakes issues because, yet again, Thor has a problem with fake deaths all around. It's like Oprah being like, you get a fake death, you get a fake death, everybody gets a fake death. Until it's like, oh, somebody's really dead. But are they? And it's one of those kinds of things where it's just like, Marvel needs to stop doing that, because then you undercut all your stakes. Like, I get it. Comic books, people die all the time, and then magically they're back. It doesn't work in the with these movies where it's like you're trying to tell the story that have some kind of emotional weight to it, because then you're just like, well, I guess they'll be back. But besides those elements, which I wanted to get out of the way, I had an absolute blast with this movie. I think Thor going through a midlife crisis, trying to rekindle love with Jane Foster, and really dealing with and confronting midlife kinds of things like, I want to settle down. I might want to have a family. And I feel like this film deals with those elements in an endearing way. And I do really enjoy the romantic comedy elements, and Korg doing these voiceover summations and them doing like a redux of Thor and Jane's relationship. Those elements we didn't get to see in between like the first Thor movie and like Avengers Age of Ultron. I feel like in that period of time, a lot of this romance elements, these flashbacks were happening. And there's some great storytelling elements of like Korg just narrating a bunch of stuff, which is really amusing, but it really does set a good tone of rekindling this relationship, not only for Thor and Jane, but for the audience, because nobody gave a crap the first time around. And now I felt like I did. And I'm like, okay, I like this. Thank God. And Natalie Portman was great too. She was really charming in this, and she had some big emotional elements. Her story arc in this is tragic, and this doomed potential romance rekindling between Thor and Jane is one of the strongest pieces of this film. And so's Gorr the God Butcher, who has a tragic backstory of his daughter dying and him pleading to the gods, and his god basically wanting to sacrifice him, and then this cursed blade finds him and corrupts him and sends him on this path to get vengeance upon all gods. And I feel like the film does a great job of justifying him on some level, because yes, there are gods that really are benevolent and care, but we do get introduced to the world, like the secret city of the gods, and Zeus, played by Russell Crowe, who is boisterous and flamboyant and intimidating in so many different ways in his weird Greek accent that Russell Crowe's doing in this film. But you see this warped version of this selfish, orgy-obsessed god who's... all these gods just want to hang out in their celestial palace and not help their people, and are so focused on what pleases them. And you're like, Gorr's right. Damn, he really is. And those elements really work. And he's nightmarish and terrifying. And when he comes on screen, you feel it. It's a whole entire other experience. And his journey is an emotional one. And those elements bring the emotions. Korg is a lot of fun, and he's in this a lot more. And you have Valkyrie, who I think isn't quite done the justice as I think she could have been. But Tessa Thompson's still great, and you get to see some badass moments of her really doing some fun stuff. Guardians are in it for like the first 10 minutes, if that, and they're fun while they're there, but like you can tell they're not really the focus here. And then you have the goats, who scream. They scream. It's like, Clarice, have the lambs stopped screaming? Have these goats stopped screaming? It gets obnoxious after a while, but to be fair, they actually show their worth at one point in the film, but like these goats are ridiculous. This film has some really awesome action as well. There's some really fantastic, fun, crazy action sequences through this film, and visually striking. They go to this place called the Shadow Realm. Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Send you to the Shadow Realm! But that's the black and white sequences, and they're striking. And the whole use of Guns N' Roses in this is so campy and so 80s, and just fits the tone that Taika Waititi's going for. But I felt a lot. I laughed a lot. I enjoyed this film. It's not perfect. There's some glaring flaws with it. But like, it's one of those kinds of things where it's just like, if I wanted to pop in any Marvel movie, this is going to be towards the top, because I'm just going to have a fun time. There's definitely some where I think are a lot better films and hit in a more impactful way, but this definitely works in a lot of ways, and it opens up the world of the gods, which I'm sure will be some interesting things moving forward as well. But those are my thoughts on Thor, Love and Thunder. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.